I asked my best friend if he still considered me his best friend, and the answer he gave me was the exact answer he had given another woman 3 years earlier in handwriting I recognized. I am 26. I am a freelance copy editor. My best friend's name is Sirius. He is 28, a moderately well-known illustrator, whose work is the reason I emailed him cold last spring. He is, in my life, the only person I have ever been able to talk to about the specific shape of what happened to me at 19. We met online. We met in person twice. We have exchanged somewhere north of 9,000 messages. I have his coffee order memorized. He knows the name of my dead childhood dog. In November, while he was on a trip back home, I told him I was in love with him. He told me he was in love with me too. We agreed, on the same call, that neither of us was in any state to be in a relationship. We agreed to stay where we were, with the new word in the air. The new word lasted 2 weeks. I will not write down the fight in detail. The headline is that I had told him 3 days before about the man who hurt me at 19, and he had wanted to reciprocate with stories of his own, and I had asked him to wait, and I had called him in the middle of the afternoon and said something unkind to him about his timing. He went quiet on the phone. He let me run out of breath. He said I had spoken to him the way the people who had hurt him in his childhood had spoken to him. He said the confession had been a mistake. He said we should be friends. I apologized. I cried. I spiraled. I came out of the spiral. We were friends. For 4 months we were friends in a way that had a lower ceiling than before. Lou 2 instead of I love you. Valentine's Day was strictly platonic. Please. I shoved every other feeling I had into the basement of myself and carried on. 2 weeks ago I asked him, point blank, whether he still considered me his best friend. He answered within the hour. He said I was a close friend. He said any feelings he had for me were entirely platonic. He used both phrases in quotation marks. The quotation marks were the thing I noticed. I sat with the message for an hour. The phrasing was not the way Sirius writes. Sirius writes in fragments and lowercase, with an ellipsis at the end of every other clause. The message was punctuated. The phrasing was clean. The phrasing was something he had, I realized slowly, written before. The phrasing was, in fact, the exact construction he had once read aloud to me from a draft of a letter he had written to a woman named Cleo 3 years ago, when he had ended a much longer thing with her, and had wanted, in his words at the time, to have a clean line he could deliver in any direction without it changing shape. I have a screenshot of the page he had read aloud from. He had, on the night he read it to me, sent me the page as a photo, and asked me whether the wording was too cold. I had told him no. It was honest. It was clear. It was good. The wording in his message to me was that wording. 3 years later, comma for comma. I did not write back. I went into our shared chat and I scrolled all the way back to November. I read the confession messages. I read the fight. I read the 4 months after. The strictly platonic please sentence had been the first sentence he had ever written to me in clean punctuation. Full stops. No ellipsis. He had not been writing to me in any of those sentences. He had been quoting himself. I did 3 things over the next 48 hours. I did not confront him about the borrowed wording. Sirius is a writer of careful sentences. Sirius does not borrow wording from himself by accident. Sirius had, at some point in November, decided that the version of him that loved me was a version he was no longer willing to be in his sentences with, and had switched to a script he had used before. I forwarded the screenshot of the original Cleo page to my own backup email. I forwarded the strictly platonic please message and the close friend message to the same folder. I labeled the folder with one of his nicknames for me and a date. I wrote him a final message. It said, I understand. I appreciate the clarity. I am going to step back for a while. Please do not check on me in the meantime. He read it at 4:13. He has not written to me. He has twice posted on his social media in a way that I would 6 months ago have read as an attempt to flag me down. I am not flagging. I have not deleted the thread. I have not blocked him. I have simply stopped reading. The folder on my laptop is the only place where any of his sentences live now, and the sentences in it are not for me. They are receipts of a man who, when frightened, reaches for a script that has worked before. I am going to be in love with him for a while longer. I do not have a choice about that. The thing I do have a choice about is whether I keep waiting for a sentence he is, at this point, demonstrably no longer capable of writing me without copying it from somewhere else. I am not waiting. The Lou 2 messages are still in the thread. They will sit there. They will not change. They are not. It turns out, the worst kind of sentence a person can write you. The worst kind is the kind that has been used before. I have one of those now, with my name on it, in a folder I will not open again. I am closing the laptop.